Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County Forum for candidates for Legislative District 39, Position 1. I'm Nadine Shanti, a member of the League. This forum is being live streamed to our League YouTube channel. To those in the virtual space, thank you for joining us. Let me provide some background information on the position for Washington State Representative. Members of the legislature enact or reject legislation affecting public policy in the state, provide for the levy and collection of taxes and other revenue to support state government and assist local government, and appropriate funds for these purposes. The House is made up of 98 members, 2 from each legislative district in the state. The total membership of the House is up for election each even-numbered year. This is a partisan office, and candidates may declare a party affiliation. Candidates for LD 39 Position 1 are Catherine Lewandowski, Sam Lowe, Zephaniah Boranak, and Robert J. Sutherland. Candidates Boranak and Sutherland are not joining us today. It is the policy of the League to be nonpartisan. Therefore, we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or parties. The rules for participation in this forum were sent ahead of time to all candidates, and they have agreed to follow them. I will pose the questions and will clearly state the amount of time allowed for each answer. We are using a countdown timer visible to all candidates, and time limits on answers will be strictly enforced. The order for the first question will be Catherine Lewandowski and then Sam Lowe. I will alternate candidates in the starting position to ensure a fair sequence. So let's begin. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to these questions. Candidate Lewandowski, your question is, what are the top 2 or 3 issues that you feel need to be addressed by this office? Please explain why you are focusing on these issues.
Sure, thanks. My top priority is reforming healthcare. By being in the legislature with all my years of experience within our healthcare system gives me the knowledge and the expertise to evaluate the benefits of not only the Washington Health Trust, but also all of the other Band-Aid bills that are run through our legislature designed to support and uplift our current healthcare system that fails many and benefits only the wealthiest among us. Secondly, we'd have to start looking at the health of our planet. Just as I have been part of doing amazing work at the bedside and helping people to recover from horrific injuries, I am convinced that we have climate experts who are just as capable of healing our planet. We need to listen to the experts and follow the science. And my third priority would be to deal with the problems of having so many unhoused persons in our cities and towns. What I see happening in every city and in every state is, in my opinion, unconscionable. I am especially grieved by this situation because I know that the majority of them are not there by choice, but rather because they've lost everything due to the greed of our current for-profit healthcare industry, and we need to fix this. I believe that fixing our healthcare system will then give us the ability to address not only my other 2 priorities, but also issues of food insecurity, lack of access to education, strengthening the power of unions and the people's right to collective bargaining in their workplace, and creating more fair voting systems that more accurately reflect the will of the people, giving us true choice in our elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, same question.
Thank you, Nadine. And I just want to, first of all, thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this tonight. You guys always do a very good job, so thank you. I think the first priority for me has been the same priority I've always had, and that's public safety. People need to feel safe in their homes, they need to feel safe in their neighborhoods, and they need to feel safe around town. Obviously, we've seen the news over the last few weeks, and not everybody feels safe, and it's important that we as a legislature focus on public safety and make sure that those who are doing the job are well compensated and taken care of properly. My second priority is something I've always run on to, and that's transportation. We need to address our transportation issues and our antiquated highway system. I appreciate the great work that our highway workers do, but the decisions are made at the top and the top down, and unfortunately, it's really hurting those in our rural areas, not getting the transportation dollars that they need. And so being assistant ranking on transportation, it's my hope that as we have our next transportation package, that I will be at the table making sure that District 39 receives the transportation dollars that they need. And then lastly, housing. Housing is really important. Seniors are being taxed out of their homes, and we just can't have that any longer. And so those are my three priorities.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, what qualifications and experience make you a good choice to address the issues you've listed?
Well, thank you. I've been elected at the city level, serving on the Lake Stevens City Council for 3 years, serving as council president and mayor pro tem. I've also been elected at the county level, where I've served for the last 8 years on the Snohomish County Council, where I was reelected twice. And I've been elected at the state level, working on state issues. At each level of government, I've proven I can do the job. I've proven I can do it well. And in my first term in the legislature, I introduced 14 bills. I had 10 of those bills voted out of committee, and 7 of those bills voted off the House floor, and 5 signed into law. So I've proven I can do the work, and I've proven that I can do it in a bipartisan way and be successful.
Thank you. Candidate Lewandowski, same question.
Yeah, thank you for that question. During my years of nursing, I was always very active in my local unions. This gave me an initial understanding of how our legislature works and how to read and understand legislation and how to testify at committee meetings. Along with that, my participation in grassroots movement building with Whole Washington has increased my knowledge and perspective on how legislation is passed within our legislature and helps me to understand how that legislation will affect people where they're at. I also feel that my dedication to lifelong learning helps to keep my mind open to evaluating legislation holistically and looking at the whole big picture. And I do thank Sam Lowe for all the great work he has done. Okay.
Thank you. Continuing with our 90 seconds, Candidate Lewandowski, we'll start with you. If elected, what will be your funding priorities?
Am I still in? Yes. Thanks for that. So the state constitution mandates education as the paramount duty of the state, but we do not have sufficient funding to adequately fund our education responsibilities. The insufficient funding spills over to other responsibilities of government to provide for the self-evident human rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We've created social service delivery systems for those who cannot provide or provide as well, those things that make life possible. Although we make public policy choices about the provision of housing, for food, for medical care, too many of us are left out. I am a firm supporter of equality and justice for all people, as was the hope of our founding fathers. My priorities will always be to advocate policies that enhance access to full intercultural human rights. I truly believe that with the money saved within our current for-profit healthcare system, we'll have ample real capital left over to be able to address all of our other funding obligations.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, same question.
As my opponent mentioned, obviously funding education is our state's paramount duty. That needs to be the priority, and that will be the priority next year and in the years to come. Unfortunately, that system has helped property-rich districts and business-rich districts, school districts, and they've been successful, but it's really hurt the rural school districts like Sedro, Wooley, Concrete, Granite Falls, Sultan. All those districts have really struggled with the financial pressures of being a rural school district and not having what some of the bigger school districts have regarding funding. So I really believe the legislature is going to have to address this next year, make sure that we're not just helping our urban school districts, but we're helping our rural school districts. Another funding priority for sure is transportation and the transportation budget. We have Highway 2, the trestle that needs funding, Highway 20, Highway 522, which is just outside the district, but we have a lot of commuters in the south part of the district that use that. And so those will also need to be funded so that we can make sure people can travel safely to and from work.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, we'll start this next question with you. What actions would you take or what specific policies would you endorse, if any, to address homelessness in your district?
Well, obviously, homelessness is a huge problem both in Skagit and Snohomish counties. And one reason is because of housing affordability. I introduced House Bill 2126 this year in the Housing Committee, which is for rural ADUs. And I think that's something that can help bridge the gap. And I got that passed unanimously out of committee. But unfortunately, we ran out of time during the short session to get it to the House floor for a vote. And so when I go back to Olympia this next year, I really want to make sure that we have all housing options on the table and making sure that we have rural ADUs so that our seniors can take advantage of that and our new kids who are newly out on their own have these same options to have their own place to live in.
Thank you. And candidate Lewandowski, same question.
Oh, thank you for that question. I would like to pass policies that will help to build housing that lower income people can afford. Housing as a human right is not a profit center of an insufficient marketplace. It is a legitimate object of government to do that which the community needs to have done, but cannot do in their separate and individual capacities. I believe the human rights of individuals are violated by policies and practices that dehumanize and criminalize our neighbors experiencing homelessness. The forced removal of unhoused people from public lands when they do not have access to stable, affordable housing appropriate to their circumstances are actions often justified by the use of dehumanizing terms such as sweeps, cleanups, or cleans. I support the development of publicly owned properties under the administration of a newly formed Department of Housing to create long-term, sustainable built, union-constructed, affordable housing.
Thank you, candidate Lewandowski. We're going to start this next question with you. Let's get back to the whole idea of public school funding. Please explain how you think public schools should be funded. Are there changes or additions to the existing code that you would recommend? Please explain.
Sure, thank you for that question. I am not yet a tax expert, but I do believe that the Constitution wanted both tangible and intangible assets, like stocks and bonds, to be taxed at similar levels. We need to have parity of taxation on all property at an equal rate. As the value of property increases, so does the property tax rate. However, intangible stocks and bonds are exempt from property taxes. This is a great source of untaxed property that could be newly taxed and dedicated to school funding. We could also rescind numerous tax exemptions that amount to a greater total of revenue than that collected by taxes, according to the Department of Revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, same question.
Thank you. My oldest three kids are school teachers, and so this one is near and dear to my heart. Obviously, Washington ranks near the top in per pupil funding, but unfortunately, test scores are near the lowest they've been in our state in many, many years. I've been a fan of our public charter schools and letting the money follow the child. And obviously, that's helped middle income and upper income families have options when it comes to school, to their schooling. But they feel like their local school system in some cases is failing them. I believe our poor families and students, they don't have the same options and they deserve to have the same options. And that's why I believe that the money should follow the student. All kids are different. The one size fits all model isn't working for every child. And so I want to put the focus back on the kids and their needs. And I want to make sure that the parents have a part of that education once again, too.
Thank you. And candidate Lowe, this next question is for you. What, if any, environmental legislation or regulation is a priority for you?
Well, we all want clean air, clean water, clean soils. I think one of the things getting missed as our climate is changing is our working forests. DNR, our timber companies, they've adapted and managing our forests and how they cut them and thin them now and the equipment that they use. It's much different than it was 40 years ago. Now we've taken so much timber in our state offline from active forest management and thinning and harvesting that our forests have become literally matchsticks ready to burn. And we saw that with the Bolt Creek fire and how quickly that burned over 10,000 acres. And so we need to make sure that Uh, we go back to making sure our timber is a priority. Once again, managing our forests once again, so that we don't see more fires here in Western Washington. We've seen way too many fires. More fires are going to come unless we have this active forest management, and that's what I want to focus on.
Thank you. Candidate Lewandowski, same question.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Climate change is one of the two great challenges to our communities. We worry about the dangers to our democracy, to the rule of law, to our Constitution as one governance challenge. But the dangers to our environment are equally dangerous. We need to organize our priorities to immediately address the greenhouse gases that are increasing daily from fossil fuel energy burning on our highways and in our factories. We know this must change. We do not have the luxury to continue to punt this to future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Candidate Lewandowski, how satisfied were you with the most recent Washington state redistricting process? Are there any changes to the process that you would recommend? Please explain.
Again, this is not a public policy about which I have great expertise, although this last redistricting was something I tried to pay very close attention to because of my concerns for our democratic processes. Regardless, I support policies that ensure that everyone can vote to participate in the decisions and activities that the people in our communities have as a human right. I'm always disturbed when I learn of multiple schemes to purge the voter rolls in order to control the outcome of what should be a democratic act. The state of Washington generally has a very fair and democratic voting system, but it does not appear to me that the recent redistricting process complied with our open meeting policies. Our redistricting commission is something that needs to be evaluated, and here in Washington, that has to start in our legislature.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, same question.
Obviously, I agree with my opponent that there were some problems and potential violations of the Open Public Meetings Act with this last go around, and I think some of that has been addressed, and it does need to be addressed and cleaned up before the next time that we redistrict once again. After the last redistricting, we had our first Latina woman elected in Eastern Washington, Senator Nikki Torres from the 15th District in 2022, due to the new redistricting process. And then we had what appeared to me to be a partisan court case. She's now been redistricted out of that district that elected her. And so we need to make sure that our elections are treated fairly. We can't have court cases that seem to be partisan in nature changing the system that we have, and using the court system as a weapon to subtract Republican Latino members and replacing them with other people. I don't think that's what was intended with the Voter Rights Act. And so I support the redistricting process. I don't necessarily respect some of the decisions that were made in recent court cases.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, what will you do, if anything, to support a vibrant economy in your district?
Well, I'm really encouraged about the new Janicki plant that opened in Hamilton in Skagit County. Huge for jobs, huge for housing and wages. I worked with the Skagit County Commissioners on House Bill 1987, my workforce housing bill. It was a Skagit County priority, and I think it's going to help areas in Hamilton and other areas that need affordable housing for the workforce that's moving in there. I'm also encouraged by the new $355 million Amazon fulfillment center in Arlington, where the parking lot basically touches the 39th district. And that's important because many of the workers come from the 39th district. It's the largest Amazon warehouse in Washington. It's added a lot of technology, but it's also added a lot of jobs. I think off the top of my head, about 2,500 jobs. And these jobs, I looked for an advertisement on it recently. They ranged anywhere from 64,000 to 122,000 as the advertised rate. And so I think that's good. Amazon also has their satellite division, Cooper, opening up in Everett. That's going to be a couple hundred more jobs, and many of those workers will come from Lake Stevens and Marysville. And so I'm really encouraged about the 39th district, and I think we need to continue that economic engine going to provide more jobs for more people.
Thank you. Candidate Lewandowski, same question.
Yeah, well, economic, and I grew up from a family from a small business, but economic growth, I think, is most effectively achieved when focused on middle market firms who have survived the initial establishment and growth. After a firm has established itself and is ready to increase their market share is the most effective time when public policy can assist in that growth. Growth requires a competent labor force, access to capital, access to technology, and access to the marketplace. Public policy can assist in training the workforce. The establishment of a public banking system, such as that implemented by FDR in fighting the Depression of the 1930s, could provide access to capital for expanding firms that they can use for investment in plant and equipment and technology. People do not generally consider the Department of Transportation as an economic development agency, but what happens if we do not have roads and train tracks to ship goods to market? I will work with the Snohomish County's economic development agencies to assist in this effort, including sponsoring legislation to provide the support they need to grow our economy.
Thank you. Timer, please note that the candidates will have 60 seconds for these next questions, and please adjust the clock. You both have mentioned funding transportation, so we've got a question about that. What is your approach, candidate Lewandowski? What is your approach to funding transportation? Are there projects that you would prioritize or changes to current priorities that you would recommend? Please explain.
Sure, thank you. We need to greatly expand our rail transport system going east to west to reach the ports for exports and get the tar sands off the river and out of our atmosphere. I also think we need to remove the dams on the Snake River. Much of our transport system could be categorized as subsidies to market-based, profit-seeking firms. These subsidies cost other users who lose their source of economic activities when they lose, for example, the salmon in the river, which had traditionally been the foundation of their trading economy. Trucks on the highways are the cause of 95% of the damage to the roads, which could be mitigated by switching that freight movement to rail. Our transportation system does not have to be a profit-based free market mechanism for equity and venture investors alone.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, same question.
Yeah, obviously we have a very tremendous rail system that follows the Columbia River. Snohomish County, we take our trash from Snohomish County, we take it by rail all the way down to Klickitat County. And that's been very effective to keep a lot of trucks off the road. And I think investing in our rail system is a good thing. I think the thing that's frustrated me, besides the investments that we need in Highway 2 and the trestle and Highway 20, Highway 522, is our ferry system. Our ferry system is terrible. I heard from a friend up in the San Juan Islands today, and just really struggling with our ferry system. We need to fix the ferries now. We need to find something to fill the gap on our ferry system. Maybe find some used ones that we can use until our next generation of ferries are ready. If that means we're 2 or 3 years behind on electrification, I'm okay with that. But we need to make sure people have what they need.
Thank you. And continuing with our, we've come to our final question, and you will have 60 seconds to answer this. And we're going to start with you, candidate Lowe. Please tell us something about your life experience that might surprise or intrigue voters.
Well, I was captain of the high school chess team, and I played basketball in college at a small Christian college. We took 3rd and 4th in the nation in Division 2A, where I played. And being in elected office is similar to being on the chess team, as you always have to think 3 or 4 moves ahead when you propose bills. I believe that's why I've been so successful at getting bills passed out of committee and signed into law, because I look for ways to overcome the opposition. I try to anticipate that so that we can find common sense, common ground, and find bipartisan solutions that work for everyone.
Thank you. Candidate Lewandowski, same question.
Sure, thanks. Well, you know, my goal as a horsewoman has always been to ride my horse 100 miles in 24 hours. And I've not yet achieved that, although I have done 75 miles in 18 hours and finished 120 miles over 4 days. Covering 100 miles on a horse is something that doesn't just happen. It takes training, planning, constant reevaluation of how you and your horse are doing along the way, and making necessary changes and recalculation of your plans if necessary. But I enjoy the challenge and the work, and I'm here for the long haul.
Thank you. The League thanks these candidates for joining us and for running for office. A recording of this forum and others can be found on the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County website, YouTube, and podcast channels. Find links at lwvsnoho.org. We encourage you to explore additional information about these and all candidates. Vote411.org, sponsored by the League, is another good source of information. The Snohomish County voter pamphlet will be mailed starting July 17th. Ballots will be mailed starting July 18th, and Election Day is Tuesday, August 6th. Please be a voter. Thank you to our League Candidate Forum team, and special thanks to Dave Moon and the Sultan School students at turkpride.tv who made this live stream possible. And of course, thank you all for joining us. This concludes our candidate forum.